learn arm wrestling, and get stronger together.
Alright, so hook setup. So in the tutorial that I did the other day for top roll, what you really want to do for a top roll is to secure your pronation. That's the leading edge of your what you're trying to fight with. Hook is the opposite. Hook, the leading edge is your cup. So you need to make sure you get that secured. A good way to do that, no matter what your opponent is doing, is you want to get depth. So you want your hand to come past your opponent. And you want to go knuckles high, okay? That's for two reasons. So number one is if your opponent is going up high themselves for like a high top roll, something like that, by you going up high, you're also going to contest that. And it can be a bit of a fight for who can get the top spot. And then you sink into whatever technique after that. But if your opponent is going low hand, backing their thumb out, that gives you access up top as well. A bit like we talked about, the counter to a low hand is anything riser base. So if you start with up nice and high, you can still cut up over top into that top spot. But even if your opponent is hooking, if you go get a lot of depth, you can crash in and get really deep in your cup and get good rotational force. But if you are versing a top roller, that's the quintessential like hook versus top roller. By getting depth, that means you can more effectively cut off your top roll. And by going up nice and high, you can create a gap in this part of your hand that you can kind of supinate and cut into that spot. And then from there you can back pressure and chop to the pad. Chop is a part of the hook that I didn't realize was so key for a long time. Oftentimes my hooks, I would actually end up over here because I would just cut and I'm like, why am I ending up over the losing side? To go from here back to the winning side, you have to chop. Apply back pressure and chop. So you can actually, it's a bit like, I think of it as kind of hook pronation, but instead of doing this, you're cupped in and you're doing this. It feels quite different, but also very familiar to a top roll. That's how I personally like the hook. You can do other kinds of hooks where you're fighting more just with pure drag. But I really like this rotational style. So this is all for a kind of rotational style hook where you're trying to create this gap in here, supinate and cut down and get wrist to wrist with being as far around their hand as you can so you can effectively cut. There are other types of hooks. And I'm still debating if I want to make this another video because there's a shoulder committed hook where you're doing similar kinds of things, except you can apply a lot more side pressure off the go. I think I will leave that for another video. But one more key thing in a hook is carve. So like in a top roll where you're wanting to secure your pronation, you want to get that locked in the start. For a hook you want to secure your cup. So if we're directly straight on, it's not too ideal because I haven't really secured my cup. Whereas if we can be angled sideways a little bit like this, for one, it's meaning your shoulder is in a better position because you want your shoulder, from your shoulder to your hand, to angle outside your opponent's shoulder, ideally. If that's the case, you're going to get more access to side pressure than they do. So you can potentially get them onto their bicep more easily. So the more, and again, you're going to have to kind of play to what the ref will let you do. So every ref's a little bit different. Some refs want you to be completely like flat to the side of the table. Some refs, it's more about shoulder to shoulder, are we straight? But then if you're shoulder to shoulder straight, you can still be pretty carved in from side to side like this, compared to like this, right? So if you're trying to hook, you want to try and get the ref to focus more on this shoulder to shoulder straight because you want to start carved. So if Moses is going for a top roll, but I'm carved in like this, but it's like ref, like my shoulder to hand is straight. On this side it looks like I'm nice and flat, but in terms of his top roll, I'm pretty much over his pronation already, so I can cut it off more effectively by getting this carve in. I need to add some videos of Oz Kaglar. He's leader of the Sydney Spartans. He's an expert at getting some carve in just prior to go. So you can see here Oz on the left, his arm is angling outside of Aiden's shoulder, or at least he's trying to. So I'm the ref here, I'm trying to get things straightened out, but you'll see just prior to go, he gets a little bit of cupping and his angle is going outside of Aiden's shoulder, and that really effectively cuts off Aiden's pronation, which is really hard as a ref just prior to go to get completely sorted. Now we go to another match versus Sam Burnett. You can see again he's trying to angle outside Sam's shoulder, getting in a little bit of cup, just on the positive side of neutral, not too much that the ref's going to call him for it. We'll get a bit of a freeze frame here. So this is just prior to the go. You can see he's well angled, well outside Sam's shoulder, and getting just a little bit of cup on the positive side of neutral, not too much that the ref's going to call him. Once again here, not too much cup in this one, but definitely trying to get a bit of carving outside of Sam's shoulder once again. Really effective for establishing a good hook. So they're always sinking into the hook in all of these rounds. It's very difficult to get outside when there's carve in the setup. So now you see Sam doing it back to Oz, trying to angle outside of Oz's shoulder. He's kind of given up on his idea of maybe top rolling. Really going all in on this hook. Really big strain going into a king's hook, and Oz just able to get over the top of it. Really great match from these two. So yeah, those are the main things. So once again, go high knuckles, because that allows you to cut off a high top roll, and also you're going to create this gap in here that you can then cut and supinate into to cut off their pronation. And then even if they're hooking, it still means that you'll still end up getting in here, but you'll get hopefully a deep grip in the hook. And so then you can hopefully use chop and roll out for the pin. Alright guys, that's a tutorial for hook. Stay strong and never stop learning arm wrestling.
He's cursed with a stronger left hand. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Every competition a reminder of what he can.